Hey everybody, I'm Cheyenne Adamson, and welcome to the YesPhonics channel, where homeschoolers, teachers, and educators everywhere come to get valuable teaching information and insights. So this topic today is about preventing crime before it starts with literacy. So imagine getting a job, advancing your career, and contributing positively to a society if you can't read. Not very likely, unfortunately. Rather, probably your life would be a constant struggle, as today's job market requires increasingly technological skills, and your options would diminish in direct proportion because of that. So if you can't read, write, or spell, you simply can't compete productively in today's world, which is a sad fact of life, and that is the unfortunate reality. The more skills you have, the more qualified you are in today's world. Let's talk a little bit about some research. According to the National Center for Education Statistics and the U.S. Census, a full 1/3 of Americans find themselves in a situation not being able to read. And many of those people turn to a life of crime to survive. The link between illiteracy and crime has been very well established by numerous studies, and it prompts us to ask the obvious and provocative question: can learning to read reduce crime? And I would argue yes, and many people who have more credentials than I would also argue yes, and we're going to try to make a case for that today. Here at YesPhonics, we try to offer the best possible methods for teaching students of any age, really, to read, write, and spell, and that's why we advocate phonics-based teaching. There was a study called Poor Education and Crime. It was a report in 1996 by the National Center for Policy Analysis, and it states, experts have concluded that illiteracy is a large contributor to delinquency. School reforms now could help children read better and stem the approaching maelstrom of delinquency. So it goes on to say that 1/3 of Americans who cannot read makes less money and suffers from preventable health conditions and spends more time in prison. So this was a gentleman by the name of Scott Morgan, and he writes this for USPrincetonInfo.com. Now there's another study that's pretty interesting that came out called Literacy Behind Bars, and it was a study published by the National Center for Education Statistics, and it was in 2003. It compared literacy between adults in prison and adults living in households. So in every age group examined, the study states, the report says incarcerated adults had lower average prose, document, and quantitative literacy than the adults in the same age group living in households. So there seems to be a direct correlation between illiteracy and crime. And they find that 3/4 of juveniles who interact with the juvenile penal system or the court system cannot read. And they find that 60 to 70% of inmates who are in prison also can't read. So there's definitely a huge correlation here. And it goes on to say that also the same holds for juveniles. And rather than them becoming contributing members of society, young people who can't read also face social and economic barriers that are often dooming them to a life of crime. It's very, very sad. There's a gentleman by the name of Michael S. Bruner, and he links juvenile imprisonment to sustained frustration from the inability to read. And his recommendation is simple: teach phonics. So after a 2-year study of the causes of imprisonment of juveniles, Bruner concluded that the cause was from sustained frustration from the inability to read in public schools. His recommendation, again, was to teach a complete multisensory phonetic reading method, such as the Spalding method. So Michael S. Bruner, he's a teacher trainer. He's a former research fellow at the U.S. Department of Justice, and he's the author of Retarding America: The Imprisonment of Potential. It's a book on the relationship between juvenile crime and illiteracy. So the reason people advocate phonics-based teaching is because it's effective for all ages, K through 3rd, remedial, and it's also born out of a desire to help dyslexic and learning challenged students. So there's been studies from the U.S. Department of Education, University of York's Institute for Effective Education, National Institutes of Health, and many, many others, and they all bear out the fact that phonics is more effective to teach reading, writing, and spelling than the whole language, commonly referred to as CSAY, or Look-say, as some may refer to it. In addition to these, Michael S. Bruner, the author of the aforementioned book Retarding America: Imprisonment of Potential, reminds us that children do not come to school not wanting to learn. Rather, that's the first thing they want to do. It opens society, socially, and economically to a person if they can read. Bottom line is, if you know somebody who struggles to read or struggles to learn to write letters or anything that has to do with reading, writing, and spelling in general, I suggest, and it sounds like a lot of experts also suggest, to pick up The Writing Road to Reading by Romuald Spalding. It's a pretty inexpensive book, fairly cheap, and it's very comprehensive and effective. And it provides a whole curriculum for students and teachers. Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you feel like there's something I missed, certainly leave a comment in the comments section below. I'd love to start a discussion with you guys. Maybe also give us a like, and if you want, you can throw a subscription our way if you're looking forward to more content just exactly like this video. And until next time, my fellow educators, stay classy, be well, and I'll talk to you soon.